We learned yesterday that the opinion of Rav, quoted by Eruvin, to make a distinction between what you can't eat versus what you can't have any anah from, and when you use a loshen neder, it's ein ma'arvin boy because that's part of the pleasure that you're having of benefiting from the eruv versus not being able to eat from it, but you can't eat from it, but somebody else can eat from it. And that would be okay. So that distinction, while maybe disputed by one Tana, the Tana of the Brisa that we showed yesterday, we came up with a different Tana to back up Rav Huna Marav, and that would be Rabbi Eliezer, who basically said that exact same distinction that Rav Huna said in the name of Rav. The only question is, now that's we're up to me, Amar Blaza Hachi, but now we have a steer in Rabbi Eliezer himself, not being consistent. Why? Because Vatanya, the Brisa seems to say, Za'aklal, here's a general rule. Adam oser atzma ba'ochel, ma'arvin loiba. Good morning. If you aser food to you, you can still make an eruv with food that's aser to you. As we said, the logic is, but somebody else can eat it, and therefore it's still relevant. It's, it's in the game. And therefore, granted, you can't eat it, but that's fine. However, ochel naser loi, ochel which, again, one more time, adam oser atzam ba'ochel ma'arvin loi. If you just, the language implies you just aser eating of this food, then you can make an eruv from that food. Ma'arvin loi ba. Ochel hanersa loi la'adam ein ma'arvin loi ba. But ochel which has a more broader prohibition of not deriving any benefit from that food, that is food that you cannot make an error from, which is exactly the point that Rav made, and agrees with the Tanakama. The only trouble is Rabbi Eliezer yesterday is the one who agreed with Rav, and now Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Kikar zu alai ma'arvin leiba. Okay, if you use a broad prohibition type language of answering it even bahana, that's you could make an eruv in that, and the logic would be, we said, what was the logic we said yesterday? That even though you're answering it on you, what was the logic? Why is it flying out of my head? I remember the logic. Why would it be that even though you asked it bahana, one svar which we didn't mention is the svar of mitzvahs lav snitna, that it's not meant to using it for mitzvahs, not really hana.
There's I don't know if this is correct, but there's a Rashi about a third of the way up that says my love de amar alai.
All right, that even when you make a neder, it doesn't really apply to all things. It only applies to the main. Right. Okay. Right. That's not really a broad. The lush of neder doesn't apply to things other than eating. Right. That was the other logic. Okay. Thank you. I think that's what we said yesterday. Okay. So the point is, Rabbi Eliezer Omer kikazu alai ma'arvin leiba, kikazu hektish ein ma'arvin leiba. So clearly, Rabbi Eliezer here is saying the only type of eruv that does not work is one that's usher to everybody, namely hektish. But anything less than that, which is lashon neder, which would prohibit it completely to him, seems to be that it would work. So how do you reconcile one Rabbi Eliezer versus another? Okay, and the reason why you cannot use hegdish is lefisha ein ma'arvin begdeshus. As we had before, there's a general rule: hegdish is off limits to everybody, and therefore there's no eruv. It's allowed to be used by hegdish. So what do you do with the stira? The stira is not the end of the world, says the Gemara, because trei tanoy alibud Rabbi Eliezer. We have two tanoim. We have this a lot in Shas that when you have a contradiction between one Tana and that very same Tana in another place, very often it's two different Tanoim who argue what did Rebbe say, what did Rabbi Eliezer say, what did this particular Tana say. So they're arguing on what he held, and here you have machlokis, two Tanoim as to what Rabbi Eliezer's position was. Okay, so at the end of the day, Rav Yehuda Marav, while it's not universally held, certainly has it's had to hang on in terms of Rabbi Lezer of yesterday and the Tanakama of this brisa today, so he's okay. We're now ready to go weiter, 2 dots, 3 lines from the bottom, Lamed Amud Aleph. So Ma'arvin l'Nazir b'yayin. So we said in the Mishnah that the fact that you're a Nazir does not mean you cannot make an Erev with wine. You can't drink the wine. So how in the world could you make an Erev if you're a Nazir? And the answer is, Pasha, somebody else can drink the wine. So it's not the end of the world that you can't drink it, because at least it's fit for somebody in your entourage or for some Jew in general. So it's a relevant item. Okay.
I think there were some Rashis that applied to the Gemara we just learned.
Okay, thank you. I'll get out of my funk soon. Let's see here. Marvin Adam Oser. Yeah, Adam Oser Atzma Ba'ochel. Right. So right before the wide lines, 4 lines before the wide lines. Adam Oser Atzma Ba'ochel. Shetola Haned V'Maisa Shu Oser Ba'atzmo. Dahainu Shlo Ochel. If you make your neder dependent, it's something that you do. The hainu shel ochel means not going to eat, so that's referring specifically to an act. Okay, that I'm going to. Generally, that's used as a way of describing a shua. Okay, and now in this Gemara, the neder and the shua thing kind of interchange, but essentially, it's always interpreted that a neder focuses on the item that asks the item to you, while the shua is what you're not going to do. So really what Rashi is describing here typically is a lashon shua, that something that you're going to do or not going to do, namely not going to eat the food of this particular Erev. Marvin loiba, the chol hanoah, the memelihi, v'lav yuavid. The hanoah, the memelihi, v'lav ihi ovid. So again, if you make it that you can't eat it, if you make it that you're just saying I'm not going to eat this, ma'arvan leiba da hanoah da melihi, because the fact that you're using it as a this is the Rabbi Lezer, okay, v'lav ihu ovid.
I believe this is the Tanakama.
Ma'arvan leiba. Yeah, you're right.
It seems like if the neder is on something that you actively do yourself, and that's what you're answering. For example, eating.
Yeah, but he's giving the logic.
And then the arvin lupa, and you can arv with it because that's just the hana memela. You're not doing anything to derive that hana from this item.
Yeah, but that's a new lumdis. In other words, what happened to the svara that other people can derive benefit from? If you're answering food to yourself, other people can derive benefit from it.
Looks like for whatever reason, Rashi is explaining it differently.
Yeah,
In
interesting.
English, it says on note 27 that Rashi refers to here the prohibition other benefits besides eating. Maybe that might help.
Well,
it's not only eating. Others, I guess, there's smell. You can smell the food. It's a beautiful thing to look at. You think about an esrog or something. It's got the smell. It's got the beauty of what it looks like.
It says v'lav ihu avid. He didn't do it.
Right. So, in other words, right, Rashi's introducing a whole new idea that if you answer, when you use the language adam oser atzmei ba'ochel shetala neder b'maisa shu oser b'asad. So I'm making an edit that I'm not going to eat. So even though there is a pleasure that you're getting out of it, it's an incidental pleasure. I'm not doing it. The pleasure comes from what you're making an Erev, and the fact that I can walk more, it's like an incidental thing. Okay, it's a new lumdus. Okay, there's not even a lumdus of mitzvahs lav l'honestit. No. Now this seems like a third lumdus of why it's okay, because we had mentioned that the neder focuses only on food. Then we had also mentioned other Mefarshim talk about the idea that maybe it's deriving benefit from an Erev is a mitzvah, and mitzvah is not considered a real benefit. Here, it seems like it's a different lumdus, that it's incidental. It's not really active. Okay. On the other hand, interesting. Ochla neser la adam kagon. If it's food that has been prohibited on a person, this is like the second case. Kagon kikazu to aser alai. When you use a classical lashon neder that this a loaf of bread should be prohibited to me, or you make it sure not to benefit from this kikar. You're not making dependent on a physical act, but rather it's even incidental, sort of passive type of pleasure. Okay, so here it's about what you intended as far as the type of prohibition. Is it a prohibition of active benefit versus sort of a passive benefit? And this second language includes everything, and therefore, since even anod memela, then aim arvim loiba. Okay, what's that little zayin? Leil. Okay, yeah. So they're two different. Yeah, so that's what's going on. So that these two Rashis reflect a different approach. That he's, like I said, that he said earlier. Lishnachrina. Here's another version of what just transpired in these two opinions. Kikazu alai ma'arvin laibad olakaman ma'arvin el b'dvar mitzvah. Okay, you can only do an Eruv when it involves a matter of a mitzvah. Mitzvah lav l'hanasnitnu, and mitzvahs are not meant to derive benefits. So this is another pshat that we did not mention this, but we just mentioned this morning. Okay, it's a different logic than what he just said. The benefit of an Eruv is not called a real benefit because if you use the mechanism of mitzvah slav l'hanastin, it really means that the fact that you can use an esrig for the mitzvah of lulav and esrig, and the fact that you can use tefillin to put on tefillin and fulfill the mitzvah, that's not called hana. That's called doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects you to do, and that's not called the classic benefit. And therefore, even though you answered the food upon yourself, mitzvahs lav l'hanastintu. And maybe what about the fact that you have to be able to eat it? But it is fit for others. Okay, on the other hand, if you said kikazu hegdish, lo chazile lididei v'lachrina. If you make it hegdish, it's not fit for him. It's not fit for anybody else. V'nan suda ruya beinon kilakaman and zeikar. Okay, so that little foray into this new little world of that pshat was not what Rashi really held. It's sort of it's another pshat that he that he heard or that he learned, but it's not the main pshat. He likes this pshat better. That so it would come out that you need. It seems like Rashi's working with both factors. Somebody's got to eat it, and somebody's got to be able to eat it. By English, no one's able to eat it, so that takes care of that. Because you need the edibility factor by at least somebody. And what about if you get the fact that you're deriving benefit from it? You have a secondary question. So if somebody could eat it, fine. But what about the fact that you're deriving benefit from it, and isn't that a problem? The answer is no, because of the rule of mitzvah slav l'hanis. No, it's not considered that you are deriving benefit by using the eruv for dvar mitzvah, whatever positive motivation you have for making the eruv. That's not considered a real benefit.
So does this apply only to eruv techumen? Because you're supposed to only make an eruv techumen for dvar mitzvah, but the other kind of eruvin we do it for anything, right? On eruv chatzeros we do it for anything.
Well,
so it seems we seem to be interpreting this Bryce as only applying at least in this pshat.
Maybe in this pshat it would come out that it would be limited. Yeah, could be. Right, according to the first pshat, it would have nothing to do with the mitzvah, and therefore it would apply across the board. I mean, right, we definitely have been sort of focusing more on. I don't think it's a kasha, but it's certainly a point of, important point of information. It sounds like you'd be right that it would come out that according to this, if Eruvin chatzeros, which is not a dvar mitzvah, you just want to use it to be able to. Maybe it's more of a convenience factor, and then if you answered it and you're deriving benefit, it wouldn't be considered eruv, unless you want to broaden it out to say every mitzvah, if it's protecting you from carrying, then it's ultimately a dvar mitzvah that's dvar. But it doesn't seem like that's the kind of mitzvah that he's referring to here. Okay, fine. So let's proceed. One second. Yeah. Okay. So we've done the Rashis on this page. Let's proceed with the two dots. So ma'arvin l'nazir b'yayin. So the Mishnah said you're allowed to make a eruv for nazir with wine. Masisin lo kabei. So the fact that our Mishnah says that eruv is a valid eruv, because even though the nazir can't, but somebody else can, that concept seems to be disputed, as we actually learned about earlier. Masis lo Beishamai, the Tanya, because it says in the Brisa, Beishamai Oimrim Ein Ma'arvin L'Nazir B'Yayin L'Yisrael B'Truma. Because we learned earlier that Beishamai says you cannot make an erev for Nazir with wine, nor for Yisrael with Truma. So even though the Kayin can eat the Truma, the Yisrael can't. You have to be able to access it personally, you yourself, and you can't, and therefore, according to Beishamai, it will not work. Amru lehem Beis Hillel Beishamai. Beis Hillel says to Beishamai, but wait a minute, my dear counterpart here. Iyatamodim, don't you admit to me as we turn the page, Shema Arvin Lagadol B'Yom Kippurim. If a Gadol wants to make an erev on Yom Kippur for Yom Kippur, would that not be a valid erev? Even though, how is he going to eat the erev on Yom Kippur? That's not happening. So it's not an edible item, even though it's potentially edible, but not today. And if you have to be able to eat it, well, the Nazirite also could, after Zazirah, still be able to eat it eventually, but not on the day that you want to be able to eat it. So what's the difference? How come you say an erev for Nazir and for Yisrael with Truma doesn't work, yet would you not agree that you are allowed to make an erev for Gadol for him to be able to walk further on Yom Kippur? Amrulahen avol. Yes, I do agree that it's true that I would agree you can make an erev. Well, Amrulahen Tishem Shemav Lagadol B'Yom Kippurim Kach Ma'av L'Nazir B'Yayin L'Yisrael B'Truma. So I don't get the difference. The same way that you can make an erev for Gadol Yom Kippur, why can't you make an erev for Nazir with wine and for Yisrael with Truma? Okay, and that seems to just be where it leaves off. So what's the answer? Beis Hillel, now the Gemara is saying, Beishamai will respond, even though he didn't respond actually in the Brisa. Beishamai Hosam Ikasuda Ruyim Ebojom. You can't compare the two things because as Yontif entered, as Shabbos entered, it was fit to be eaten, or by in this case, as Yom Kippur entered, it was fit for the Yisrael. As long as Yom Kippur is not actually here yet, if it's right before Yom Kippur, it's still an edible item for the Jew, for the Gadol. Even though we're not focusing on the fact that a cotton could have it, that would be Beis Hillel's point of view. Beis Shammai needs to be that he has to be able to access it. He can access it when? Right before Yom Kippur. Okay, so there by Yom Kippur it's a Suda which is Ruyim and Bojom. Hachalek is Suda Ruyim and Bojom. Here it's not a Suda which is fitting from before, because no matter how much Yisrael is going to jump on his head, he'll never be able to eat that Truma. Not on Shabbos and not 5 hours before Shabbos, nor will the Naz be able to drink from the wine. So it's not about Shabbos or Friday, it's just about, I can't eat it. But Yom Kippur, it's about that day. And right before that day, it was edible. Okay, Rashi, Shema Arvin Legodo, Lemishu Godok Shehevi Shtei Sairos, once a kid becomes bar mitzvah and has 2 hairs, that obligates him in mitzvahs midaraisa. Even though it's not fit tomorrow, yet you can make an erev today for Yom Kippur. Since it's fit for the cotton who's not in the category of being able to be punished, he didn't do anything wrong yet, he's not mechuyev in mitzvahs. So Beis Hillel's logic was, since it's fit for him, for the cotton, it's good enough for the gadol. But Beis Shammai, don't you agree to that? And Beis Shammai says, yeah, avol, emes, it's true. I do agree to that. So what's the diff? The difference is, mibayjoin, shel erev Yom Kippurim. Before Yom Kippur hit, even though it may be a second before, it's interesting, when does the erev actually connect? Does it connect on the day when it started already, in which case it would be too late, or here they want a taina, according to Beis Shammai, would actually start the second before. Okay, the last second of the day, part of the Erev Yom Kippur, is when the Erev is actually engaged. In that second, I was able to eat from this food. It was not Yom Kippur yet. Okay, because the minute, as we know, the minute Bein Hashmashos hits, you can't eat anymore. We've got the concept of Tosfos Yom Kippurim, where we have to add. So there's actually a prohibition even during the twilight time. But this, you'd have to say that the Erev hit mamish right before twilight. Okay, so that takes care of the Rashis. We're back ready to go weiter. Kaman lo kechranya. This interpretation of Beis Shammai does not seem to fit with Chananya. Look at that Rashi. Kaman lo kechranya, last wide line of Rashis. Hamasis and the Mashu Shebe Shamai Moidim Be'erev Loka Chananya. This brisa that represents Beishamai's opinion that an Erev could work as long as food. If food is involved, that's a valid Erev. It just has to be food that could be accessed by the owner of the Erev as opposed to other people. That whole idea does not fit with Hananiah's grip of Beishamai, because Hananiah's grip of Beishamai is radically different. We're going to now be introduced into a whole new world where matzahs and challahs don't play a role anymore. And that's shocking because we don't live that world, and therefore it's hard for us to relate to that world. But there's another way of looking at things, much more practically in terms of setting an abode and setting up a place for yourself to extend your living quarters. They need to be, according to this new opinion, mamish living quarters. Let's see. So this.
The modern Be'erev is for Yom Kippur, right?
Well, it's modern for Erev on any Erev. That food is.
Oh, any Erev. You can make an Erev at all?
Yeah, well,
okay.
Let's see. Yeah, the fact that food works for an Erev, the Erev that we know, that does not seem to fit with Chananya. Right, the Tanya, because it says in the Brisa, Chananya Eimer Kol Atzman Shel Beis Shammai Lo Yimodim Be'erev Ad Sheyotze Mitasai V'Chol Klei Tashmish L'Sham. Okay, this is a radical concept that Chananya's understanding of Beis Shammai is that the Beis Shammai, the whole essence, the whole opinion of Beis Shammai, they would never admit to an Erev until you really bring all of your practical things that you need to set up shop there, and that's your mamish, your koine shvisa, because your bed is out there, and your suit and your shirt, is out there, and that's where you're living. So it's not like you can't play that little matzah game and set up a matzah, 2,000 amas away, and that should be now you can walk from there 2,000 amas further. That's not going to work. None of this matzah stuff. Okay, look at Rash. Let's go weiter. Okay, Kaman Azhor Tanya. And who does it go like? This brisa that seems to reflect this concept. Erev b'shcheirim lo yotze b'levenim. If you set up your Erev by putting your black garments out there, you can't go out lo yotze b'levenim. Okay, so if you became a tzioni overnight, you gave up your black suit for the white shirt and the white srugi, will not work. You cannot go out with white clothing if you had made the Erev with black clothing, or b'levenim lo yotze b'shcheirim. Okay, or if you set up with white, you can't wear the black because that's not what you had set up with. It's not what you had prepared to be worn that time. So it's not part of your wardrobe and then part of your whole repertoire of what you're going to be needing for Shabbos. Because according to, again, Beis Shammai's opinion is that you need kol klei tashmisho. You need all of the things that you would normally use. Come on. So who does this go like? Rav Nachman Yitzchak Hanani v'ali b'Beis Shammai. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak says it's Hananya like Beis Shammai that says you have to have everything there, and if you don't have everything there, it doesn't work. Well, but even there, I don't understand. Says the Gemara, Hananya b'shchayim hu lo yotza habul veinim yotza. When according to Hananya, what sounds like if I set up with white, I can't go out with black, but I could go out with white. Or if I set up with black, I can't go out with white, but I could go out with the black. But wait a minute, it sounds like you don't have everything you need there because you want to go out with the white. So how does that work? So inside, one second. Right. What? But it sounds like from that brisa, according to Chananya, that you cannot go out with black if you set up with white, but with white you could go out. So the black clothing are new to the scene, so you can't go out with the black clothing because you didn't put it there before Shabbos. But it sounds like it could go out with the white clothing. But how could you go out with the white clothing if you're missing the black? That means you're missing something that you should have had, and that means you didn't make a good Erev. You don't have everything you need, right? It's not, it sounds like you really wanted to go out with it. Doesn't the language say that you have to take your bed out and all of your items that you need. So according to him, it's a total, all-encompassing type of Erev. It's literally almost like it's a, it's not even a Chiddush almost, according to him, but we're Hamamish living there. This is my new house, where I brought my the stuff that I need, my wardrobe. But you didn't bring everything you need, because you want to go out with the wife, but you can't. So I don't understand why it's good. Hachi Kamar. So let me reread the Brisa for you in a way where it's no longer a problem. Once you adopt Beis Shammai's concept of what an Erev is about. So he says, Hachi Kamar, Erev Bilvenim, V'hutzrach l'shchayrim, if you made an Erev with the white garments and you need black garments, Af Bilvenim lo yotza. Okay, that's what it means. The Bryce's Tak is saying that if you really need two types of clothing and you only set up one type of clothing before Shabbos, and you can't even go out without what you set up because you didn't bring everything you need. Okay, you needed, and we can't relate to this stuff because pretty much suits, one suit covers Shabbos, but certainly for the ladies, right, they have a different outfit for every part of the day. So if they didn't bring all of their outfits, then for them the Erev can't work because you didn't, so if you're that guy who wears two shirts, you didn't bring the second shirt, that it wouldn't work according to Beis Shammai. Again, we don't hold this way, so let's not panic, but that's what Beis Shammai would say. So come on, so now that we reworded the Brisa and we re-explained the Brisa, come on, who does this Brisa go like? Or Nachman Yitzchak Hananya, believe it the Beis Shammai. So now it Taka fits very nicely. It is Hananya indeed, like Beis Shammai, who says this radical concept that you have to have everything you need there. Okay, let's see, Rashi. The last word on the last wide line, Erev b'shchayrim. So if you made an Erev with your black clothing, Hayalav v'shchayrim, he was wearing black, v'holach v'yoshev b'soif alpayim amma. Okay, and he sat there, okay, at the end of 2,000 Amis, okay, before Shabbos, he sat there, ad shekono shom shvisa, okay, till he acquired his place. Now, how do you acquire your place? That means you got to be there. Shekidesh l'vayom, okay, that's when Shabbos hit, that's where he said, Mizmor Shil Yom HaShabbos. It was Makabel Shabbos, 2,000 Amis out, and he has to walk back, okay, to where his family is in order to do what right, because the whole plan was, I'm going to be in the city here Friday night, but then tomorrow I want to take a nice walk out to, I don't know, see some lunar eclipse the next day or something, and therefore I need to walk 2,000 amas out, so I was kind of shvisa Friday night here by bringing everything I need out here. And then I guess he walked back, but he v'chazal beso. So according to Beis Shammai, the language is kol klei tashmisho. Mashmad, what it's implied, the lo yafik kol tzorcha tashmisho. These words kol klei tashmisho imply that if you did not take out all of what you would normally need for Shabbos, or have a erev l'didei. For him, it's not an erev. You cannot use the erev unless everything is out there. Okay, and that's it. That's the last Rashi on this sugya. What's the Gimel? Lamidi. Okay, fine. Lamidi. Lamidi. Fine. Okay, but same basic idea. Bottom line, it will not work. Okay, so this is not our world, but it is Beis Shammai's world, and it's a very interesting world about what it will take in Beis Shammai to actually make an erev. And clearly, according to Beis Shammai, there are much less erevs in the world than there were in Beis Hillel's world, because who's going to bring out everything they need? It's going to be much more limiting in terms of the practicality of making an erev. But that's what they held. Okay, fine. Let's proceed. Next quote of the Mishnah. So Sumchus argued. So the first Tana had said you cannot make an erev if you could make an erev for a Nazir with wine and for a Yisrael with Truma. And Sumchus Omer, the very first Mishnah of the Parak, B'chulin, you could make. He argues and he says, not that you could, he says you cannot, if you're a Yisrael, you have to use chulin. You cannot use a truma as you mean for an erev. And we had pointed, when we learned the Mishnah, we pointed out, which we're about to get into right now, is it's interesting, Sumcha seems to only argue with the truma aspect. Does not seem to argue with the Nazir aspect. The Tanakh said two halachas. He said halacha of a Nazir, and he said halacha of a Yisrael using truma, and yet Sumchus just puts the gavel down and smashes the halacha of the truma, does not touch the other halacha of the nazir using wine. So clearly, we're going to want to know what's the difference between these two halachas. So let's take a look. When the nazir wants to use wine, he doesn't argue. He seems to say it's fine that a nazir can use wine as an eruv. My timer, why? What's the reason? So I'll tell you what the reason is. Efshir the mitchal and Zerusa, because this nazir could access wine. He's a nazir. How could he access wine on Shabbos? All you got to do is go to the kayin, or there's such a thing called being shoel on your neder. So if you're shaykh b'she'ela and you can annul the vow by coming up with some good reason why you're never meant to be a nazir, then you could be shoel on the neder. And by being shoel, you now can access the bar tanura. So you're good to go.
You can do that on Shabbos.
What?
You can do that on Shabbos. I thought you were supposed to do that on Shabbos.
Well, for Dvar Mitzvah, maybe you could, and maybe in this case, or the truth of the matter, again, if you learn that if the Eruv hits right before Shabbos, you can do it then. But whenever the Eruv hits, he doesn't have to actually do it. He has to be able to do it. So.
Right, so on Shabbos you can't do that. So right, before Shabbos you could do it, after Shabbos you could do it. Ben Shmashos, I don't know if you can do that or not.
Well, okay, remember...
That's not one of the things we list on Ben Shmashos that,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. But again, if you learn, for Sheila for Dvar Mitzvah, I believe you could do. And I don't know, maybe this would be called the Dvar Mitzvah. Or if you learn, like I said, just like, remember we said by Yom Kippur, right? So you can't eat, when the Erev hits... Mm-hmm. You can't eat if the Erev actually hits Beit HaShmashos. The moment before, so you can say the moment before too, he could go to theoretically, he can run to a Chacham and be showed on his Nazirus. Okay, now, the Gemara says, well, fine, but Ihachi, Shumanami Efshir the Mitchell Iluye. He says, if that's the case, Trumanami, you can also nullify Truma in a sense as it's not a classic neder, but it is something that it's a chalois of separating food, and if you want to sort of renege on your separation and revert this back to tevel, then you can do that. So why can't you do the same thing? The Israel can access the truma by nullifying this truma status and turning it back into tevel. Well, you turn it back to tevel, but you can't eat tevel. Tevel also has a misa component to it. You can't eat tevel in that state. So if you shoal on it, it goes back to being tevel. I've lived for shalom macher, but let's allow you. But even in the tevel state, you still can access the food. This food I can access. Why? All I got to do is say I've got food in my silo over there. I'm going to take that amount from there and separate against this stuff, and now this stuff is completely accessible, completely mutter, and the other stuff is truma. So you could turn every single ounce of this food into valid chulin today, because you can be after your shoel on the truma and turn it into tevel, you can then take something away from it from another place and render this completely chulin. I've lived for shalom mimokam acher. Why can't you do that? Even though it's not really liked, it's sort of frowned upon. And the more answers, no, that's not going to work. It is not a good idea. We frown upon it. Chaverim don't do that. Torah scholars, people who are God-fearing, don't take stuff that they have where. In other words, you're not even looking at it. You don't even know. Maybe a dog just ate it an hour ago. It doesn't even exist anymore. How do you know what you have when you can't see it? You only, seeing is believing. So if you can see it, it's one thing. But shleiman amukaf, if it's not around, this is something that the rabbis did not like doing. Okay, fine. I hear that, but you still have another eitzah. You can be shoel on your truma, render it tevel, and then take it from here. Okay, just retake it, and the 98%, the 99% of it is chulin, and 1% will be truma. and you'll make it edible for you, at least to a large degree, right? And that large degree should be enough for your eruv. So Gemara says, "I take it from itself, from intrinsically itself, and mimafresh it, and that would be good." The less shura. Well, the case is that it's exactly the shear, and if you're going to take a little bit less, so in exactly 2 sudas, the part that shuma can't count, because we're working on the idea that you can't eat that part, so that doesn't work. So you have to have slightly more than 2 sudas. If you had the shear exactly, and now it's going to be slightly less than shear, you're going to be missing the shear. If you're missing the shear, then it can't work. Or it says, come on, my paska, like what kind of deal is that? So you tell me the whole case where the Mishnah says you cannot take truma that the sumchus holds, you can't access the. Where he argues about the truma is only in the case where it's exactly 2 sudas. So if you take off a little bit less, you're going to be missing take off a little bit of truma, you're going to be missing the 2 sudas. But every other case, the taka would work. There's no clear delineation for that to be understood that way. That's a very dochik pshat, and it seems very arbitrary. You have to pick that case where you're missing a little bit. Come on, my paska. So how would you split it that way? Why would you see fit to make that the distinction? So we don't have a good understanding as to still how Sumcha separates the laws of Nazir from the laws of Truma. Why by Nazir it works, and why by Truma for Yisrael does not work? Let's catch up on the Rashis here. The Mitchlan is Ziruso. Yishol Chachim v'yatelo nidro v'yayin royalo. He can go to a Chachim, okay, when mata the neder, and the wine will be fitting. Mitchalei, well, the answer is he can also do the yiftach becharota, okay, and he can sort of open up and reopen the case, so to speak, of truma with regret. Lotus kavanti lakach. Okay, I never meant for this. You have to. I mean, you can't be lying. You can't play. We can't make up a story, but it's got to be somewhat legit. But it's able to be done. I never meant for this situation to occur. Utan hegdish tos ein hegdish. If you can show it's made by mistake, it's not considered hegdish. So you can do the same thing over here. I made a mistake with this whole truma thing. I want to take it back and revert everything back to chulin. To tevel. Starts with tevel. Well, then says we're hadrul tevel of a tevel chazi. Tevel's not fit. So how's tevel going to help you? Okay, it's still not fit to be eaten. Well, v'lifish alom makom labasa the mitchal law hadrul tivla ben hashmashos b'shas kiyas erev matzil meimar. Okay, after he's showel on it, and it goes back to the tevel ben hashmashos at the time when the erev is kaina, you can't say perish b'beisi you truma alzu. Okay, ben hashmashos, it will work to redesignate it. V'shtachat islay takanta tetelzelay. There is a way by separating it from another place. There is a way that it could work. Mukaf, what's mukaf? Samach. Shomon mukaf means it's not close by. Mukaf means it's right there. Samach kamo makifin bebui shesomchen lo. That's the expression. And chulin, also meaning mekifin there too. It's close to him. V'rowan imdaimes zulazu kamo makefes v'korla. Okay, these are different references to the word makefes, which means close by. Shomon amukaf midavish and samachlo bosa kli delevimineu bay. Okay, midavish and samachlo. That's Shomon amukaf biosa kli in that same vessel delevimineu bay. I'm not sure what he's contrasting that. Okay, let's pick this up tomorrow and have a good day.